All right, I was gonna wait till I finish this aspect of the project before I put out a video, but the June gloom is here. Actually, it started at the end of May, but we needed it because it's been a long, dry, warm spring. Winter wasn't even that wet, so we need this soaking rain to hopefully tamp down some potential forest fires in the summer. I love my maple tree here. It's so big. But anyway, distraction, squirrel. But yeah, so since it's raining, I can't be out there, and I don't really feel like doing any work on the inside because days like this get me unmotivated anyway. So I'm going to sit at the computer and put out this video. And I was going to wait till I finished the whole trim install, but actually putting all the video clips onto the editor, I'm like, oh, I probably should have cut this down into a couple videos anyway because there's a lot of footage there. But yeah, so we'll get that done. The rain's going to be here for a couple days, and then once it dries up, we'll get another video out finishing the trim work. Yeah, looking at this house, there's my next project. Yeah, not kidding, unless someone wants to give me like $150,000. So if you won the lottery, hook a brother up because he wants to get out of there, and he wants to sell it for 140. It's a double wide on a double lot. He's got a big garage over there, but he said he wouldn't say no to anything above $100,000. So I figured if I could come up with $100,000, about $50,000 in materials and expenses and whatnot, rehab that thing. Right now the market's crazy out here. That thing remodeled, rebuilt, probably get $350 for it, no problem, because there's a lot of people putting up bland double wides on quarter acre lots, so that's almost a half acre. They're selling for like $330, so that would be awesome. Yeah, likelihood of me being able to get that and doing it minimal, but hey, a boy can dream. So anyway, we'll show you what I done when it wasn't raining. All right, so this is what it looked like when I last left off. And so now we're going to start putting the window trim up, and obviously the outer corner trims, and then trim that goes up along the roof line. And so now I'm just nailing two pieces together for the corners there, and I learned to nail those two together instead of putting one side up and then putting the other on. So when I built my tiny house, I tried it that way, but it wasn't square, so that the two boards didn't match up. So it's better to like have the gap underneath the trim so you can't see it and it looks square. And you saw me with a little level there to make sure everything was all level, but it is what it is. When you get up there, these houses aren't always level, especially when an amateur like me is rebuilding it from scratch. So, but it actually turned out pretty good. But yeah, just cutting that little last piece there for the front trim. So it's nice to get those up there. And then now I had just a handful of these little battens that were long enough to go from the base of the wall to the top. So just cutting the ends off of that. And for the front end, I was measuring 16 on center, and just nailing just one for now on each one, just so they're kind of hanging there, and I'll go along at some other point and level them up and finish that. But I also had to go around and trim up all these little windows here. They had these plastic corners that stuck out, from the manufacturing process, so just wanted to get them all flush for when I put the window trim up there so it sits flush against the window. But you want to be careful because you don't want to cut too much off of that, because then you'll get a hole in the little corner there for water to have an opportunity to get in there. And I think I did cut one where there was a little hole there, but luckily it was on the bottom, so it'll just come out anyway. And these corner pieces, remember the ones I showed you that were made up of the little 1x2s, the ones that weren't cedar? Anyway, I had 4 boards that were 8 foot long that were made of 1x2s and had that rough sawn end that you get it from the depot or wherever. And I ended up using those on the corner because they were the longest boards I had, to where I didn't have to cut pieces together. But now I'm just looking for the best boards to cut and put around the windows. So for now, I'm just going around and measuring each window and cutting a piece, basically cutting a package for each window, just to make sure I had enough of this window trim to go around the house. So, and I wanted to use the best boards for that, and then use the lesser, although most of them there was only a few that weren't very great for the upper pieces, because if there's one side that isn't so great, I can have it up against the roof line because it'll be hidden up in there. Because actually, where that EPDM roof liner is coming around, there's actually a white board, which you can see it on this side, just peeking through there. So that piece that I'm nailing up right now kind of gets hidden up underneath that. Once I put the gutters on, then the EPDM goes in there, and you'll see more of that fascia. But yeah, so we're just circling the house with it, and I was worried about not having enough of this trim to go around the house, but I ended up getting almost all the way there. I still have that upper piece in the back of the house to do, and then a couple pieces on the bump out. But like I said, the battens, I was out of the long pieces, so what I'm doing here is cutting 45-degree angles, and I think you may have saw 2 pieces on the front of the house where I had to do that. So just cutting them and putting the longer sections from the base towards the top of the roof, and then later on I'll come back and cut little pieces to fill that gap. But for now, we're just putting those up there. And you saw me doing some caulking there on one section, but not there. And so I'm just doing it where the plywood siding, overlaps, or it doesn't overlap, it butts up with each other. And then a few spots there's a pretty decent gap, because I was trying to get it close to on center, 48 on center, whatever, as I could. So in those lapping or butting points, I put lap sealant there, and I had this liquid butyl tape that I got from the Habitat store, or liquid butyl in a tube for caulking. It just never hardens up like most window sealant does, or caulk or whatever. But man, it was sitting around for a while, so that stuff got pretty dang hard. So it was taking me like 10 minutes just to, that's an exaggeration, to get these seals done. That's why I only showed you like half of that one, because it just took forever. I was getting arm cramps and everything, but luckily I only had 3 tubes of that. I got through 2 tubes that were pretty bad, and then the third one had been sitting in the sun, so it got kind of warm. So it actually came out pretty easy. And then after that I had standard caulking, window and door and sealant. So ended up using those. I think that was the last seal right there that I had to use with that really hard to get out seal. So you see how much faster it is there. So yeah, I'm glad I got to that point. Yep, so I just pretty much nail either in the front end. I was just doing 1 nail on the top. On the side here, I'm just doing 1 nail on the bottom usually. Unless I have the ladder up, then I'll go and start from the top. But like right there, like I just did the bottom. Then I'll go and level it with the level. And then, put in 1 more nail so I know it's good to go. And then put 3 or 4 in there. And we'll give it a party time. Kind of celebrate your wins as they go. But yeah, so where was I? Lost track. But yeah, so just putting a few sealants up there and putting those. Oh, what I was going to get at was in the front end, I was measuring 16 on center, but as I went on, I was just going like I can see where I was nailing the siding into the 2x4s. So I was just kind of sighting those off. So I might be off a little here and there, but the most important part is, just making sure that it's, straight up and down with that level. And as long as I'm on those nail holes, then everything worked out pretty good. And here you saw me putting some flashing tape there in the corner of the bump out, where the bump out meets the house. And we're putting a few more of the corner caps on. And here we're starting, that's the front end of the house. And just working our way back towards the bump out with our little battens. So really nice to get this done. And every once in a while, when I get some done, I just like to go sit in my yard and stare at that stuff. And it just feels good to see this really come along. And then if you see the white car there, that means the big boss is in town. Mom's come to visit her grand doggers, and she's been approving of the project here. It's really nice when we make a big change. So the color change and putting some window trim on here. She really enjoyed that. I guess her brother's coming up to visit her next week, so they're going to come out here, and they like to come see him, and his wife like to come see all the improvements over the years that I've done here. So we'll have them out this week, so that'll be nice. Yeah, I think I got the last corner piece there, and then I have one last inner piece. Once I get that to stop falling over, and we'll put some more flashing tape in there. And I think all the corner and outside and inside corners are done, so that was nice to get that aspect over with. And here, got some more flashing tape, and I think the stuff is like 4 inches wide, but we want to put it around the windows here, and I want it a little bit wider than the flashing that's underneath the windowsills to overlap it, so you know water has to get past that and the other one to get inside. And so we just had to take an inch off of it, and so I'm just measuring an inch off and using that straight edge and cutting it, putting it over the windows, and then using this rubber wheel thing on a handle and pushing it down. And so hopefully that'll keep it watertight. I think once the stuff gets hot too, it'll kind of melt on, so when you get a hot summer's day, it'll just make it that much more sticky. But we'll give it a little breakdown here pretty soon. But yeah, it was nice to get to the point to where I can start getting the window trims done on all of them. So we'll give you a little breakdown here in a second. All right, so I just showed you putting the flashing tape on a couple windows. I did all the rest off camera over the last couple days. I think I have 13 windows. I do have 13 windows altogether. So now that we got that all sealed up, we're going to start working on the actual trim and getting them put up. And what we're going to do right now is see on these windows here, there's 2 little screws with little grommets on them on the top and bottom. I think the smaller bathroom windows that are really skinny have them on the side instead of the tops. But yeah, so what I have to do there, since the trim isn't going to sit up flush to that, is I have to figure out where the middle is, and then I'm just going to mark it and then cut a little bit on each side with little skills, or whatever you call these things, skill saw I believe, and then take some chisels and just chisel out a piece. I probably could use the chisels and not a little skill saw, but I think that might be good so I don't get too much blowout. And we'll just cut a little section out there so that it sits flush. And then the window itself has a flange, and then I put, instead of using roofing nails, I use screws, so it sits a little farther off the wall. And we'll show you that here real quick. So yeah, so you know, it's flat, or obviously there's just a tiny bump here, but not a big deal. But then where the flange of the window is, it sits up a fair amount. So if I put the wood up on it to make it level, there's going to be a gap on this side, or if I nail it down, there'll be an angle and some room for water to get in there, and it just won't look as good. So what I'm going to do is run this on the table saw and just cut out a groove here so that it sits up against there and is flush all the way around. So that's going to be fun trying to figure out how to do that. But for now, I'm just going to start on the top and cut out that little piece for the screws, and then I'll work on the table saw. I think I'm going to put the top one in first and then butt these ones up to the bottom of it, because I'll put some caulking on there. So we'll see how that works. All right, what I meant to say was jigsaw. I kept saying skill saw, but skill saw is a circular saw basically, and this one's a jigsaw. And yeah, just cutting out those little grooves there for the little screws on the windows. And this is the only one I used this procedure for. In the end, I started using the little multi-tool saw. Things are loud and annoying, but it did the job. But here we're just setting up the little rabbit cut, as it were. Although I just did 1 blade's worth, but it was like 2 blade worth inside, so I kind of had to cut it and then just pull a little wood off of there. And so just cutting from the tape to one end, because I didn't need to cut the sideboards all the way there. And then we'll put a little caulking on there and on the inside and the part that goes up against the window, so you can see it there. And I was going to do the top window frame first, but I just have it sitting there, and then I just kind of push the board up against it and then put these ones on first, because then I can center up that top piece to what I have, because some of them were just wide enough, some are just a little bit over, so we want that to be even on each side. So we'll get those put in there, and then we'll work on the top one. And yeah, it worked out pretty well that way. There is a little bit of a gap on some of them, but you know, after this caulking dries, it is clear caulking too, so it dries, and stuff that gets pushed out, I use a paper towel and then a wet rag to get rid of it. But if there's any that needs to be put in after this is, you know, all said and done, when I'm finishing it up, we'll fill those gaps in and then do some trim painting. I'll countersink the nails. I was using the siding nailer, so it's got some big heads on it, so we'll countersink those and then put some tape paint over that. Hopefully it'll look good. And here's the only two like shorter battens that I finish off, but you can see what I'm going to do on the rest of them. But that was the very front of the house, and I just kind of wanted to see what it was going to look like. And here you can see, you know, I was just pulling that wood off, and it kind of broke off one little corner of the wood there. So, you know, I was just cutting and then pulling it off. I ended up using a chisel and a hammer, which I think I show me doing one of those procedures, just so I'll you know, score where it needs to not break past, and then I start breaking it out with the chisel, so it came out a lot cleaner that way. Yeah, so we'll just describe a couple of those, or actually I won't describe it, I'll show you. There it is. So yeah, just hammering it with the chisel and then breaking it all out, cleaning it up so the boards sit flush around the window. Yeah, this is the big window next to the door there. And see, I didn't nail that top one there, so when I pushed a little bit too hard, it came falling and knocking me on the head. You gotta wear a hard hat in this zone sometimes. And that was supervisor there was yelling at me to do that. But yeah, just nailing it in. And this is the kitchen window. Getting that all framed in. And yeah, I think I get most of these done at the little window here that I'm going to next over the bathroom. This one and the one over by the other side of the house, I just do the two long pieces. I didn't end up cutting the short boards for those. I'll do it at some other point, because like I said, I was running low on this window trim. I got it almost all the way around the house except for the back end and then around the bump out top. So we'll work on doing that. And I do have a little bit left over, so I will almost make it all the way. I was worried about getting anywhere close to finishing it without having to mill up some more, but I think I just have to mill up maybe one or two more of the longer boards to cut it down. But yeah, just rinsing and repeating here with the caulking and putting it up. It feels good to get this done. I think I have a party. Yeah, there, got a party when you can. Get one window done and you know you're getting close to the end, because I think this is the next day. So I was celebrating the end of one day there. And this is the big window and the bump out. And there's a little couch on there, and the doggers like to sit there and watch me or look for the neighbor's dog to come visit me. My poor little tractor there, garden tractor that I had big plans for, but realized it wasn't going to be able to do what I needed it to do in this yard. So someday when the garden's in shape, then we can maintain it with that thing and we'll get it running. It runs, but the battery's dead, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so we got this window, and then that window on the right that we'll finish up here in a second. There's a window around the corner for me on the back side of the bump out there, and then the very back end of the house. Those two windows are not getting done yet because I run out of caulk on the next window, and then the rains came. So I think in the next day or two when I go to work, I'll go pick up the last tube of caulk that I need, and then the sun will come back the day after. The sun will come out tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll finish those windows up. We'll get you that on the next video, and the top parts of these battens. This one makes it all the way to the top there because I had to put one above the electrical for the mini split. Yeah, after work that night, there was fireworks for a forest celebration in my town, so I just happened to catch it, and we'll catch you on the next one. Whoosh. Take care, y'all.